Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Amit, and today we are talking about something very interesting, which is Apple. Apple. The good old Apple stock that I bought at 145. I'm not good at editing yet, so the number is not going to pop up, but just imagine it did. It went down to 143. I sold at 144 because I needed the cash, so I took a loss of like 130 bucks, and now it's at 157. Of course, this is what happens to someone who's just not patient, which is why I invested $25,000 into Palantir. That is now becoming a meme on this channel. And I'm being very patient, even though I'm down like $4,000 right now. It's okay, right? You gotta be patient or else you're gonna miss when it actually rides up and then you make your money. You gotta be patient. You gotta not be a short-term thinker when it comes to stocks and investing. But why is Apple up to like $158 today? Apple, and I really want to talk about this, and I want to know what people think in the comments. I'm really interested in what people have to say about this, because it seems like it's a no-brainer and it's going to work, but who knows? Maybe it might not work. Apple is focused on coming up with an electric car. Now, you guys may have heard about this before, that the Apple car was coming out, but the reason the stock is driving is because the reports are coming out that this is going to be a fully autonomous electric vehicle. Okay? Now, when I say fully autonomous electric vehicle, I mean they are trying to beat Tesla at its own game. Like, they are really trying to get to the point where they're electric. They don't have to worry about the internal combustion engine, the gas, and the environmental concerns that are going to be levied on them, like it's levied on all the other companies. So they don't want to deal with that. And they don't want to deal with you driving the car. Like, they are trying to innovate. I'll leave some articles down below on this information. They're trying to innovate not having a steering wheel, not having a gas pedal or like a electric pedal or whatever. They want to fundamentally change the experience that we have with the car. So a couple points of analysis that I really want to talk about here. But before I get into those couple points of analysis, what this means for the stock and what I think this means for the future trajectory of the company and sort of the macro level economy when it comes to Apple being a major car manufacturer, which is many years away, likely going to be shown in 2025, probably not come out till 2027, 2028. So we do have a lot of time before this happens. It takes a long time to get a car to come to market, so it makes sense. But that gives us some time to really do analysis on what this means. Tim Cook could have bought Tesla in 2018. I don't know how many people know this, but this is famously reported by Elon Musk himself. It's not really reported, right? He told the world by tweeting, as usual. And he said that in the darkest days of Tesla, which was back in 2018, and those weren't the darkest days, but that's when people really had doubts about the company. And now it's like $6,000, $5,000 pre-split. That's like it pays to get through the doubts, right? Because if you held the stock till then, you would have done very well. He was considering selling the company to Apple, right? He had a closed meeting with Tim Cook. He asked him if like, hey, are you thinking about this? Or I think he sent him a text or something. Like, there was some communication, and Apple either never responded or they rejected, right? So when you think about it, I'm like, this was Tim Cook's worst decision ever. Like, try to take the bias away from what Tesla is right now and Apple buying Tesla, because now it sounds like, oh my God, it's the worst mistake ever, right? Apple could have bought Tesla, and Tesla is this like magnificent thing in the world, a magnificent car that just like when you use it, it's amazing. Think about it in 2018, right? If Tim Cook had the vision, the foresight, right? The idea that you could look at a product, look at the potential of the product, look at the marketing around the product, and realize that there was no marketing because the car itself, this was one of those products where the product markets itself, and have the vitriol to just be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy this for, well, I don't know how much money it would have been, but they would have had a majority controlling stake, and they had a ton of cash to be able to execute the acquisition. He could have done it, right? And then they could have had Tesla under their wing for years, and they could have integrated the iPhone and all these cool features into it. And the Tesla car that people love, Tesla's a $1 trillion company right now, by the way. Whether you think that's overvalued or not, they are selling cars, and they don't have to do marketing because people love the product. That could have been Apple's. And Apple, right now, Apple has to do supply chain. Apple has to come up with marketing. Apple has to do X, Y, Z. They have to do all this stuff to make the car. They could have literally just bought the company that did all of that and just put the Apple logo on it. Like, could you imagine the Tesla logo, the Tesla car just having an Apple on it? And like people, I mean, it would have been amazing. It would have been crazy. The reason I think Tim Cook didn't do this is because I don't think he liked Elon Musk. I mean, at the point where Elon's tweeting things like SEC stands for suck Elon's, and at the point where he's saying to senators, I forgot you were alive, or that does your profile picture just look like you came? That is not Apple's DNA, right? Apple doesn't do that. Apple's a fierce company. I mean, they compete, but they don't issue statements like that. I mean, Tim Cook tweeting that would never happen, right? That's just not Tim Cook. That's not the type of person he is. That's not the type of culture that exists in Apple. But Elon Musk is his own machine. I mean, part of the reason that Tesla doesn't have to spend money on marketing and advertising is because Elon is the marketing and advertising. The product sells itself, but Elon is the product, right? And because Elon has this like just force to him, I mean, he gets like 130,000 followers on Twitter a day, right? If you look at his social blade, like he is this magnetic force. And I think if you took some of those tweets away from him, you're ultimately taking away from his personality. Now, granted, does he need to do all those tweets? Probably not. But I think Tim Cook in 2018 recognized that this guy's kind of a nut job in terms of just like, he'll do whatever he wants. He doesn't care. And Apple would probably not be able to control him. Elon would probably fight back, even if he sold his company to Apple. And at that point, I think that's why Tim Cook didn't make the decision. Now, there's probably some business reasons Tim Cook didn't make the decision. Maybe they wanted to compete with Tesla and make their own version, which is probably more likely. But I also think they did have a lot of hesitation about Elon as a character being the defining force for that company that would ultimately become part of Apple, right? Elon would represent Apple, the brand. So Apple now has decided to do it their own way. Now, I wanted to talk about this for a couple of reasons. Number one, what does this mean for the stock? Look, here's my first takeaway for the stock. I don't think that the stock is going to rally that much going in the next couple months. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I mean, it seems kind of inevitable, right, as it's just growing up. But I do think there's a huge market correction that still hasn't come yet. And I know it's come for some stocks, but I don't know if it's going to hit all sectors. And if it does start to hit more and more sectors, Apple tends to go down. It doesn't tend to go down that dramatically, but I'm not sure if right now is the best buying opportunity for the stock. I do think, though, that if this does happen and this does materialize, then the stock is obviously a great buy if you have a 6 to 7 year horizon on it, right? If you're buying it at 157, which is at an all-time high right now, could it be 300 by the time the Apple car comes out? I mean, even past 300, probably, right? It's a safe bet. So, I mean, Apple always is one of those safe bets. So there's nothing original that I'm saying, but I personally don't want to buy it right now just because I don't like the price that is at being at an all-time high. And I don't really know much about this car. We don't know much about the supply chain issues that's going on with the iPhone. So not necessarily sure it's the best buy for me right now. Okay, so that's my first sort of analysis on the stock. The second thing I want to talk about is what this means for their endeavors in the car industry. Now, the automotive industry is one of the most competitive industries in the world, right? It is hard to get a car to market, and then it is hard to convince people to leave Honda or Toyota or whatever other car they use to buy your car. The reason for this is most people are familied into cars. So, for example, my parents have always bought Hondas. So when I got my first car back in 2021, that I paid for by myself, my parents did not. I worked hard. I put a $5,000 down payment on that. I paid it while I was going into being a senior in college, and I love that car, and I still have that car to this day. I bought a Honda, right? Because it just made sense. Like my parents used Hondas. I understood Honda, and like it made sense for Honda and me to get married and like to integrate with the Honda. I didn't even think about like getting a different type of car. So it's hard to bring a car to market because you have so many other forces that stop consumers from picking new types of brands of cars, especially when they don't know them. Apple is one of those companies that never has this problem because they create something so revolutionary that you just have to get it and have to try it. iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, not the most revolutionary, but best in class, etc. What their approach is to products is not just, I'm going to create a good product. I'm not just going to create a good phone. I'm going to create something that is the best in class. There is no other phone that is going to be able to compete with this phone, no matter how hard you try. It is going to be the phone from a hardware perspective, but more importantly, the thing we actually care about from a software perspective. How does this phone interact with our daily lives? How does it also ultimately become symbiotic with our existence to the point where we can use the phone and the phone is a catalyst for a version of ourselves that is more productive, more efficient, more happier, etc. Probably why Apple has been banning all these app tracking devices because they don't want ads, because the ads make us feel bad, or they don't want Facebook using our data to make us feel bad. Whatever, that's a video for another topic. But that's the point, right? So at the point where Apple comes in with best-in-class products and products that are revolutionary in the fact that they can't be really competed against because they are best in class, that's their approach to the car. The car is not just going to be a nice Apple car. It is going to be a car that has features that are so intense when they present it at their new conference for the car in 5-6 years that no one's going to have seen them coming, right? They're thinking of a car that is different. They're thinking of a car, when I say different, I mean emphasis on different. So obviously electric, but also what can you do with the car that you can't do in regular cars? Well, one of the things you could do in the car is sit in the car and let the car drive you to where you want to go. A fully autonomous car. People are like, well, that exists. It really doesn't. Not really. Right? Like the Tesla thing is autonomous, but it's not really autonomous. It's not to the point where like you sit in and you could just like literally play your Nintendo or something and you just get to your destination. There's no problem. Now, in 7-8 years, will technology be that advanced to the point where Apple can guarantee you can literally go to sleep in the car in the back seat? You don't have to worry, you'll be fine. I don't know, because I think there's like drunk drivers and stuff going, like there's stop signs sometimes that your product might not, like, I don't know. Like, I think that's a really hard thing to justify, that you can just sit in the back of the car and nothing's going to happen. But I do think they're going to get to autonomous vehicle technology to such a point where they'll be able to say 60% of the thing I just described is possible. And if that's the case, that's more than most things out there. Now, Tesla obviously is going to try to get to 100% of that. So there's going to be some really fierce competition. That's ultimately good for us consumers, right? Because that competition is going to lead to hopefully lower prices and a better quality experience. But nonetheless, that's their goal with the car, right? And it makes sense why they're, delaying this car. And it also makes sense why they're taking a very methodological approach. And some of the articles I've been reading saying that it's literally not if, it's when, right? So according to Bloomberg, Apple is exploring a more futuristic car design with more open concept seating, similar to EV startup Canoo, with iPad-like displays for hosting the car's infotainment. Obviously makes sense. Tesla has a big pseudo iPad in the middle. Not including a steering wheel is apparently still up for discussion, with Apple also considering equipping the car with some sort of emergency takeover mode. So these are the types of innovations that they're thinking for how they can create a user experience that is so fundamentally different than everything else that it forces I think they're worth $2 trillion to become $4 trillion, right? Like Tesla's $1 trillion. Imagine Apple matching or exceeding the sales of like a Tesla car or a Tesla company, and then adding all of that market cap into the iPhone market cap and the services market cap and the wearables market cap and the Mac market cap. I mean, that's going to be a really big company. But that's if they pull this off. And again, to me, that's why I really want to know people's comments. It seems inevitable. I mean, like, I really do think it seems inevitable. When Apple chooses to do something, they choose to do something. And all these articles coming about a car, there's not rumors anymore. I mean, like, these are senior reporters that are talking to people in the company that understand that this is a playbook, right? Tim Cook has probably been game planning this for the past 5-6 years. I also think, here's the last thing I'm going to say, this is his legacy. Because his legacy kind of sucks if you think about it. I mean, he got us the AirPods. Fantastic. Now, I don't hold him accountable to that, because I think after the iPhone, iPad, and Mac, I think sometimes people hold innovation to too high of a standard and they're like, what's next? And it's like, bruh, like, we're getting a lot of good stuff right now. Like, before you say what's next, it's like, look at what we have. We have this amazing device that can do these crazy things. Like, it's hard to innovate past beyond that. And at one point, I don't know how you innovate past the iPhone other than changing the form factor of it, which is going to be the glasses. I'm going to do another video on that because I'm super excited about that. And I want to talk about the future of what that means. But until that, he hasn't really done anything, right? And again, I don't give him a lot of flack for that, but history will not give Tim Cook a favorable sort of reading as being a CEO of Apple and a visionary of Apple if the best you could do is come up with these headphones that don't have wires. The car will be his legacy. I think he will be able to retire very peacefully knowing he brought a car to market and left Apple ready to have the next 100 years of domination, because now they have this product that they're probably going to charge 50 or 60 grand on and make like 30 grand a pop, some ridiculous margin, because the iPhone like cost them 300 to make and they charge 1,000 for it. Like, that's going to be amazing for the stock. That's going to be amazing for the company. But the question is, will it ultimately materialize going into the future? So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I am actually very excited to read the comments. I want to know what people think about this car, and I want to know what people think about Apple being first in class and best in class when they release a product, and if that same philosophy is actually going to materialize when it comes to this car coming to market, which it seems like it might. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.